Super Rugby this week, Friday games, Crusaders, Drua, and Reds, Moana, Pasifika. We're going to go through some lineups, some stats, predictions. You guys can let me know your thoughts on how the games may or may not go this Friday. It's a pretty miserable day here in Auckland, so fingers crossed tomorrow for these games has better weather in Christchurch and Brisbane. First game, Crusaders, Drua. The Drua aren't been given much of a chance, to be fair. I mean, 2-10 for their first season, they're doing okay. They've certainly got some areas to improve on, but they are playing the Crusaders, who by their own standards haven't been as all-conquering as normal with 9-3, but in the last couple of weeks they've been looking on form, haven't they? So they've been able to make a bunch of changes, the Crusaders, like there's no Moana, there's no Will Jordan, so they've brought in the guys like Verkusberg's getting a start at 10, Che Fihaki's getting a start at 15, but you've still got, Scott Barrett's moving to blindside, Ethan Blackhad's moving to number 8, Tom Christie's getting a start at 7, Jack Hoodew's moved to 12, Eno gets a crack at 13. Ganuku, 9 tries this season. He's the top try scorer. He's on the left wing, up from the bench. So, yeah, plus a new front row with Brewis and Jackson alongside Newell, who played last week. It's a bunch of changes for the Crusaders. It's a bit of rotation. Simon Hickey's on the bench. I haven't seen much of him. You've still got Tamaiti Williams and Oli Jaeger on the bench. Corey Kello as well, Mitch Drummond. But, yeah, like I said, it's still got a bunch of All Blacks in it, but it's not the normal kind of full-strength Crusaders side that we've been seeing the last couple of weeks. For the Drua, they've made some interesting changes. Teddy Teller, the normal 10, has moved to 12. I haven't seen him play 12 before, but Caleb Munce gets a crack to run the show at 10. He was on the bench last week. Matawalu's at 9. Likewise up from the bench, Nagutha, the captain, who was on the bench last week after serving a long suspension for like 4 weeks. He's back to number 8, so good news for him. The hooker, Dolakoto, who started at 7 last week, continues on, so they must have liked what they've seen. Plus a couple of changes in the front row. Both the reserve props are up from the bench this week to start. Ravovo is moving from 12 to 13. Remember, he's proper dangerous, so look out for his carries at 13. But the main man to watch out for, I'll say it again and again and again, is Habosi on the left wing. Dude is lightning. He's up there for like defenders beating clean breaks, run meters. He's like 3rd in the whole competition. So on a side which hasn't had that much ball, he's been doing all right, has old Habosi. So yeah, we'll see how these guys are able to go down in Christchurch. It's a bit of a long shot for them, to be fair. The Drua got the worst line out in the competition, and you can't be giving the Crusaders any free balls, so that's an area they need to get right. And last week they did. They like 5 from 6 lineouts went according to plan for the Drua last week. So maybe that's a sign of improvement, but they were only up against Moana Pasifika, whose own lineout isn't that flash. The Crusaders have got the highest percentage completion rate of their mauls in the competition, so that could be a weapon. If the Drua can't defend at maul time, the Crusaders forwards may get some pay, or maybe they'll try to unlock the backs. We'll have to wait and see, but I would imagine we'll see a bit of mauling. Bookies have got Crusaders by 30 points, 3-0, and the Rugby Forecast algorithm says even more, 34. We will see how this game goes. First matchup between these two teams. Hopefully, seeing as the Crusaders have changed a few guys, that it's a bit closer than it seems like it's going to be on paper. Reds against Moana Pasifika. Moana Pasifika a bit disappointing last week. They had some decent possession but couldn't generate enough kind of genuine chances against the Drua. But more disappointing is the Reds run 4 losses in a row and got an absolute hiding by the Blues last week. So we'll see how these guys can bounce back. Remember, the Reds, part of their slump has seemed to coincide with missing a few players. James O'Connor's been out for a while. McDermott was out for a while. Wilson's been out. McWright's been out. But most of those guys are back. Tupou's out for the season, but you got McWright back at 7, and he's the only forward in the top 10 for clean breaks. The dude can spot a gap. He's had like 9 throughout the season. Harry Wilson's back. He's the top ball carrier in the entire competition despite missing a few weeks. McDermott's still at 9. O'Connor's still at 10. Pataya's back on the left wing, was same as last week. They are missing Paisami and Tupou, like I mentioned, but for the most part, this is a pretty tidy looking Reds outfit. Vunivalu had probably his best game, still on the right wing. Hoopert and Fassler get starts this week at 1 and 2. But yeah, for the most part, pretty steady as she goes. So these guys are back home. They'll be looking to bounce back. For the Moana Pasifika boys, they have made a few changes. Taumateni and Liliafano, 9-10 this week. Changed from McClutchy, who ran the show last week, but he's still on the bench. Sam Slade's back in the team in the second row. Alosio's back on the right wing, but it's left wing Tavatava Nawai, who's been absolutely crashing it up. More defenders beaten than anybody in the competition. He's got like 56 defenders beaten. And the next guy, second, is like 40-something. So he's a proper unit on that left wing. Look out for him for some big ball carries. But yeah, same front row as last week, same back row as last week, only one change in the lock. So yeah, pretty steady. And these guys need a bit of game time together, because like they got some good numbers, like good ball carrying numbers, good offloads. Like they love and offload the Moana Pacifica boys, but they don't generate that many like clean breaks, like genuine try scoring chances. That's the one thing I think that comes with more game time together, and that's the one thing they need to get, because last week they actually had some ball, which is a change compared to most of their games where they're really low on the possession. They had some ball, but weren't as clinical as we would have liked to see them, the Moana Pacifica boys. The Reds genuinely don't concede many tries. I mean, they conceded 8 last week against the Blues, but that's an exception. So if they can likewise keep the Moana Pacifica attack pretty quiet, I think the Reds should, go through this one as they are expected to do as kind of big-time favourites, bounce back from their losing run. It probably comes at a good time for the Reds because they are on a losing run. They need to bounce back ASAP, so this might be the game to get that done. The bookies certainly think so. 16 points, say they, and the algorithm says 33 points, 3-3. So either way, the two teams in blue are expected to have pretty hard times away from home against the two teams in red. You guys let me know your thoughts. How do you think these games are going to go? Do you give these guys any chance? Would a losing bonus point be kind of a win for these sides in blue? That's how it looks on paper anyway, but fortunately the game's not played on paper. You guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.